everyone, my name is Marcella Desharnais. I'm the Executive Director of the Color of Music Collective, and welcome to our discussion on social impact tonight. So I'm so excited to have all of our incredible panelists with us tonight, and they're so excited to talk to you as well. So if you guys could just go around and briefly say your name, your pronouns, company, position, and your clients. And Erica, would you like to kick it off?
Sure, thank you. I'm Erica Krusen, she, her, hers, the Senior Director of MusiCares. We offer financial assistance and resources as a safety net to the music industry in times of need. Was there something else?
No, that's great. Thank you. And I'll kick it over to you, Matthew.
Yeah, firstly, thank you again for the opportunity to be on this panel. Hi, everyone. Matthew Hernandez from San Antonio, Texas. He, him, his. Currently working at TikTok as a brand development manager, working with a variety of different verticals and clients from entertainment, sports, nonprofit, education, retail, and music. And I'm super happy to be here.
Super happy to have you. Thank you. And throw it over to you, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Locke. I work for Universal Music Group under the 1824 umbrella as the New York City assistant/coordinator for our marketing department. We work across a lot of different platforms, a lot of different verticals, from social media to content creation to live events to publicity, you name it, it's included in there somewhere. Pronouns she, her, hers. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And how about you, Nanette?
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Nanette Vélez, and I'm in Miami. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. My pronouns are she, her, ella, to keep it Latin. And I'm the director of the Latin Grammy Cultural Foundation. And my clients are students that have been admitted to college to study music, but don't have the means to pay for their education. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And how about you, Tomi?
Hey everyone, my name is Tomi Afolabi. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I currently work at MTV and Music and Talent. We've worked with companies such as Ad Council and When We All Vote, and I specifically work with musicians. So all types of artists from like Doja Cat to The Wallows. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Nazanin.
Hi, I'm Naz, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm Director of Marketing and Partnerships for Music Forward Foundation, and we are the internal charity supported by House of Blues and Live Nation. We operate as a national nonprofit organization that creates access and opportunity for young people ages 13 to 22 to chart pathways to successful careers in the music industry, both on and off the stage.
That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you to our entire panel. We're so excited to jump right into the discussion. So for anyone as an audience member whose first Color of Music Collective panel this is, we typically start with a few discussion questions, take the conversation from there. And at the end, we have a Q&A section where we give you the opportunity to ask our panelists your question as well. So if you look right below, there's a Q&A section and you can throw your question in there. And keep an eye out for the chat because that's where we'll reach out to you if we ask you to ask your question live at the end. So great. So for our first question to kick things off, what was your journey towards working in social impact in the music industry? Did you always aim to work in that niche, or was it something you grew passionate about as you entered the industry? So like I said, it's sort of a free-flowing conversation. Anyone who wants to kick it off, go ahead.
Hey. So at first, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to study music. I'm a flute player, so I wanted to study music. I wanted to study flute. So if it wasn't for a scholarship that I won in high school, I wouldn't have been able to go study and achieve my dream of studying at Berklee College of Music in Boston. So when I got there, I started to work as a student employee at the scholarship office. And then I started to receive calls to help students that have been awarded a scholarship also to go to Berklee. And those calls, man, those calls changed my life. They were so excited, just like me, like they were achieving their dreams and achieving their goals. And then that's when it clicked, like I want to do this my whole life. So I continued to study music, and I graduated. And as soon as I graduated, I started to look for jobs that are not for profit, or to help high school students and to help students. There's so many talented young musicians that want to study. And so I wanted to do that. So now I am the director of the Latin Grammy Cultural Foundation, and I am giving back to the world what the world gave me. And some people say, I really believe that just one person can change the world, right? Because I'm here helping and helping students achieve their dreams. And we have given 255 scholarships to students, more than $5 million in scholarships. And those 255 students are going to pay it back. They're going to help other students achieve their dreams, help them get a gig, perform in their band. So as you can see, it will multiply. And yes, we're making a difference in our communities and in the world. So
That's so great, especially to hear that you started with just a love for performance, and then you were given the opportunity to perform and pursue your dream, and now you're doing the same. That's a really incredible story.
Yeah, I'll go next. That's awesome, Nanette. I'm glad. Thank you for sharing that. I think for myself, this all started with mentors in my community, and I feel I was really lucky to participate in the leadership program that really exposed me to those important conversations about education, social impact, and leadership that really, is about giving back. So lesson there, find mentors and surround yourself with the right crowd. Because of those experiences I had in high school, I now became hyper aware of my upbringing as a Latinx person to pursue these opportunities. The reality is not everybody is going to have the same opportunities that I had. So it is about giving back. It is about improving your community and bettering your community. And now I feel like I'm living that both personally and professionally. It's really become my lifestyle. Like I'm participating in my Latinx Heritage Month Peloton playlist and Beyonce rides, but I'm also involved in my organization, right? So you have to make sure you're also doing it for the right reasons. And once you figure out like the reasons you're doing it for, then go all in and give back to the community. And you can make some huge impacts in terms of just giving back to people that may not be so fortunate.
Yeah, I want to highlight something you said there is the importance of having the opportunity to participate in a group or a program that really facilitates those conversations and that discourse around these really important topics that we're going to go through tonight, of course. But just to have those difficult conversations about the music business, something that we're all so passionate about, is not always an easy thing to have, and you don't always have the exposure or the opportunity to participate in those conversations. So wanted to highlight that. Thank you for sharing.
I can go next. So yeah, kind of to piggyback off of what Matthew said, I was also a peer mentor most of my time in high school, and I found that really fulfilling. And then by the time I got to MTV, always wanted to work there. And they had this initiative called Look Different, and they kind of just focused on dismantling discrimination and bias that people may have. So I just remember like asking my bosses, like, how can I be a part of this? What can I do? And as an assistant, it was like, okay, you just got here, answer the phone, schedule the meetings. But later on, like it was top of mind, like, okay, Tomi was really interested in these things. Here are projects that she can start to work on. And then from there, it just kind of built organically and just ended up being really fulfilling. And I think for me, I like to remember that like, all of us on this panel, we're POC, we're queer, like we shape the culture in our everyday lives with the way that we talk and the way that we dress. So pairing that with a huge corporation or even like a smaller business, like you have so much influence and so much power over the culture. So to use that towards good it's been really, really exciting for me. So that's kind of my journey.
Absolutely. Pairing, like you said, those identities, no matter if you're queer or a POC, whatever it may be, with a corporation is one step closer to making the music industry more representative of its consumers and its culture. So I'm totally with you on that.
I'll jump in and just say I've been with Music Forward going on 13 years in January. And one thing that has really made a difference for me is being able to combine a passion with a profession in music, and how important that is just in your lifestyle overall. I was a public school teacher before I was in the music industry, but always had a passion for music. And so being able to combine direct youth service with a passion for music in this space of social impact in the industry has really led to a long-term rewarding career in the industry.
That's awesome. So you sort of started in education.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Awesome.
Hey there. So I'm going to piggyback on what Naz said, and because it resonates with me in that I started out as a therapist. I'm still a licensed therapist, and the great thing about MusiCares is you can you get to blend. Since our mission is really driven in health and wellness, I got to drive those two together as a therapist and in the nonprofit world. And so all of our directors that specifically talk to all of our clients and handhold them are all licensed social workers, therapists, or chemical dependency counselors. So it's really great to see the work that we can do every year. This year, obviously, we're having a banner year with our COVID relief, which I can talk about later. But my journey was just kind of coming up through that mental health and wellness space, and then joining it with my love of music and growing up in a family of music professionals. It blended, and I've always been able to see the good work that MusiCares is able to do for this industry.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of MusiCares and what you guys do for the industry as well. So thank you so much for sharing.
And I guess I will round it off. So 1824, I think my favorite part about working for 1824 is that we have a network of 90 college students. So on top of being able to, do my job in terms of helping market our artists and plan events and things of that nature, being able to give back to those 90 students and mentor them and help them achieve their dreams of being a member of the music industry is always so valuable for me. And this past year, we decided to take it one step further and create a mentorship program in partnership with the Congressional Black Caucus. It's called the Plug-in Mentorship Program, where we had over 300 applicants to have an opportunity to pair them one-on-one with another Black music industry professional, so they could see how they would be, see what their path would be to get into the music industry, have a mentor that looks like them, that has some of the same sorts of experiences as them, the same culture as them, and be able to give them that one-on-one time and experience. So that's been really great to spearhead, and we're just about to kick that off next week. So that's been really exciting.
That's so exciting and also so invaluable as a queer person or a POC to have the opportunity to be connected one-on-one with a mentor like that, especially with someone who represents you, who looks like you, is such an important connection to make, not just professionally for your career, but for your mental health, and to have that confidence that you can make it in the industry that you're so passionate about as well. So that's so exciting. And that also is a great segue into our next question. With a partnership as powerful as the one you just described, Michelle. So what do you think is the most important factor to consider when facilitating a social impact initiative? So for example, the Faders' recent partnership with #SaveOurStages initiative on collaborating on a t-shirt drop, or like, as you mentioned, your mentorship program. So could you share some insight into how those partnerships are facilitated and what is most important to keep in mind when facilitating them?
Yeah, I think it's most important to keep in mind who we're serving and how can we make this as beneficial as possible for them. So really, I think me and my coworker Asia, who are helping spearhead this, we wanted as much feedback as possible from the students and from the applicants. Like, what is it that you want to see? What do you feel like you have not gotten the opportunity to learn about within your college or within your community, whatever that may be, and how can we offer that to you? Because a lot of the time with internship programs, it's a lot of grunt work or a lot of learning, but not necessarily a lot of listening. So we definitely wanted to take the time out in this mentorship program to be able to customize it and tailor it to these students that we were picking so that they felt like they got the most beneficial experience out of it. Of, when they leave the mentorship program, they feel like I have an opportunity to be in the music industry. I know everything that I need to know, and, that it was really a great service to them.
I'll jump in and second that. Definitely being aligned on your mission and being mission driven in a partnership is super important, as Michelle was saying. And then I would also add the amplification ability to amplify awareness is something, to keep in mind when you're coming into a partnership, so that you can make that level of impact. We recently partnered with Noelle Skaggs, who is the co-lead singer of Fits in the Tantrums, for her Diversify the Stage initiative. And there's been a lot of buzz and publicity and just generating a lot of awareness in the industry, first to the mission and what we're trying to solve for, and then to the initiative overall. So it's been a really nice partnership to build together, because both of those things are there, and it feels very mutually beneficial.
Absolutely, and we're also a huge fan of what Diversify the Stage has been fighting for as well. It's fighting for local venues and to keep your venues open, not just for musicians, but for the venue managers or the box office workers. It's so important for them as well. So that's great.
I think for me, be very smart and strategic in conversation, especially if you're not in that position for those strategic partnerships. So in other words, maybe become friends with the person who's in charge of running such partnerships. I think they're ultimately going to be your best resource. But still, with every plan, you're still going to need a budget. You're still going to need a strategy, timeline, goals, inclusion to ultimately execute on any partnerships that you guys are looking to pursue. By the way, if that position does not exist, I think that's a nice opportunity to be entrepreneurial and take a leadership role at that set company. Kudos not just for your resume, but also for your community to give back. If you still feel like you're lost, you guys go on LinkedIn, schedule those informational interviews. I think everyone has a unique superpower, and I think brands, they look at it differently from brand to brand. And there's so many people that are doing such initiatives that you're going to get different perspectives on how they run such partnerships. So, tapping into the right point of contact, learning, taking notes, and using those learnings, I think can ultimately be super beneficial in terms of growing your knowledge in terms of any strategic partnerships you're looking to pursue.
Yeah, I'd second that. I'd also say that consistency is key. That's a big part of it. Just so that whatever it is, your messaging is more authentic. I think if a brand or company is focusing on one message for weeks or months at a time, it's important that they keep that same energy and make sure that that continues to show in their work moving forward. For example, I worked on, or MTV, Viacom worked on something called March Against Gun Violence. And that was when gun violence is huge for Gen Zs and millennials, being afraid to go to work and go to school. So doing so much work around that campaign. And then maybe the next day I work with talent. So I'm being pitched an artist that may have a lot of guns in their music videos, and this is across genres, right? So that's not to say that I will never work with this artist again, but it's just keeping it top of mind, being mindful, putting a pin on it, maybe pivoting the conversation to why culturally these guns are here, or maybe it's a mental health thing. So just, again, being top of mind, being very conscious will help whatever you're working on look more authentic in the long run.
Absolutely, to have an awareness in each stage of that partnership and to maintain that consistency is so important.
I don't. You guys have all answered this really well, and I don't have much to add to it. I like what you said, Tomi, about that, because I think your messaging is so important. Knowing who your audience is and knowing who you're having help amplify that message is really, really important. Especially for us, if we're, like you said, if we're working with mental health issues or any kind of other underserved populations, making sure that we're getting the correct message out to the right people.
Yeah, Just like I want to highlight what Matt said, and what you guys said was great. But what you said about if it doesn't exist, you can create it. If a movement doesn't exist, it's something the community needs, or if it doesn't exist in your job, you can create it in your personal time, and then you can bring it to your job. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, and a quick follow-up question to that, because I feel like a common theme is really amplifying your message. And, you know, if you see a gap, to fill it, if it's something you're really passionate about, how can someone maybe in an entry-level position or a recent graduate who may be a bit nervous about speaking up in these rooms as a POC or as a queer person, how can they go about doing that when it may be a little bit tense for them?
I don't know. I think it's just about like not being afraid. As long as you're respectful, you know, just making it known what you're passionate about. I feel like for me, like my secret weapon is that I'm a queer Nigerian woman. Like that's just you'd be surprised at like what perspectives you can bring to the table that aren't already there. So yeah, just being very vocal about what you're into, what your passions are, reading up on it, being well versed on it. Because you never know, you could have an informational with someone and tell them that your passion is climate change. And 6 months down the line, they could hear about a job position about climate change, and now you're top of mind for them. And so I think it's just being authentic in what you're into, reading up on it, knowing about it, telling the world about it, whether it's face to face on social media, and you'd be surprised at just what opportunities come your way.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize the authenticity portion of that, because in a past panel of ours focused specifically on partnerships, and relative to this question, that was a huge thing, is your partnership will not be successful if it's not very authentic at its core. And if you can't find a way to, as you said, Naz, amplify that message in a genuine way. So I wanted to amplify that. And Matt, I wanted to throw it back to you for a quick follow-up question, since you brought up LinkedIn. I wanted to bring that up, especially for recent graduates in a pandemic looking for a job. That's such a powerful tool. And you know, we all look to be the best networker that we can be. So if any of you, including Matt, have any advice for recent graduates looking for a job, how can they stand out on LinkedIn in a virtual coffee message to you? What can they do to sort of make themselves the best candidate for that?
Well, I was on LinkedIn more, I don't know if this is sad, but more than Instagram, more than Facebook when I was leaving, college, graduating college, utilizing the network. If you can think of any job positions that you are interested in, whether it's brand partnerships, music partnerships, you can do a search on LinkedIn and you can find a huge network in a number of different cities, from Los Angeles, New York, Austin, people in your community you can relate to. And I think that's going to be huge in terms of like how you guys are trying to navigate your career in terms of what do you want to do. And I think it's okay to like reflect and think about that in your 20s, because, you know, it's almost like we're forced to go into a career as soon as you're right out of college. But the reality is you may go into that career and you may not like it. So I think the more people you can speak with and the more people you can connect with, the better educated you're going to become. And I think LinkedIn can be a powerful way, whether it's posting or it's just like going on somebody's profile to see past experiences or just having a quick coffee chat. Really like instrumental. It's gotten me all of my previous jobs, including the one I have today, just with a simple request for an informational interview. So super powerful tool. I really recommend like trying to connect with the panelists, trying to connect with your fellow attendees in attendance, because ultimately you guys are probably going to be working together. And that's going to be a really large network as you start to build your career coming out of college.
Absolutely. I mean, I was put in touch with so many of you through LinkedIn. So I'm still on it, you know, as a recent grad and as the director of COMC, it's super powerful. So, and a great segue to our next question. What is your advice for young upcoming LGBTQ+ and POC music industry professionals who have not been able to find a job in the state of 20, but want to begin advocating for social good in the music industry?
I'll jump in and go back to what Matt said about creating your own opportunity. It's so critical, and there is a lot of untapped opportunity out there right now. People are receptive. Everybody, I saw Jonah mention it in the chat around people are accessible in this digital space right now, and so even if it's volunteering or interning or joining a club and doing some of the things that just gets the momentum going. I saw a saying once that chance favors those in motion. So I think momentum and creating opportunity are really key areas of starting to head in the direction that you're interested in.
I recently met a student who graduated from college, and she was looking for a job, and you know, all the gigs were canceled, tours, everything, and she's a saxophone player. So she started to really concentrate on directing her social media, just recording her past performances or recording with a person on Zoom, starting to get the community to know her, start reaching out to other musicians, to teachers. And recently she got a job teaching, and she started teaching online. And she was very afraid to do this because she learned how to teach, you know, in person, and online is differently. But she took a chance. She wasn't afraid. She took the opportunity. She called people to ask for tips, and she's doing great. So you have to start looking. Don't give up, but also try to do your social media, your LinkedIn, and just start reaching out to people. Like they said in the chat, and Nas said, people are listening. People are more approachable now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said, Nanette. And also following up with people, like attending events like this virtually as much as you can, and making sure you get as much out of it, following up, whether it's via email, whether you get a phone number, making sure that you make your name and your face known so that when a job does pop up, you're first that comes to mind. Because there were so many people that had followed up with us about opportunities right when COVID hit, and we didn't have those opportunities available anymore. But once they became available recently, those were the first people that we went to, that we hit up, that we were like, yo, I know you've been very persistent. You were, you know, messaging us on a bi-weekly basis. This opportunity is available. You know, you're the perfect candidate for this position. So just continue. Like, I know it feels pretty weird sometimes that you feel like you're nagging, but you're really not. Like, trust me, like I have so many emails. Sometimes I need someone to send me like a second or third email, as bad as that may sound. You're not nagging, you're just being persistent. At least that's how I see it, and a lot of my coworkers see it.
Absolutely. I want to highlight what you said there, because I feel like it can be really daunting when you're going into that process of reaching out to people and you don't necessarily get a response right away.
Yeah.
It can be really disappointing, but the reality of it is they're likely not ignoring you. They're likely just very busy, and they will probably really appreciate the follow-up as a friendly reminder to be like, hey, I'm really interested in this. And, you know, that really shows your determination. So thank you for shining a light on that. And I also want to highlight what Nanette said, the importance of your portfolio, regardless of what part of the music business you're looking to go into. In your story that you shared, she was a saxophonist. And whether you're a performer or you're looking to go into marketing in the music business, your portfolio and your resume is so important. So I want to shed some light on that as well. Great. So I think for our next question, 2020 has given us in general and as music business professionals so much to fight for. So in your opinion, what has been the most impactful social impact initiative of 2020? And what has been the most impactful initiative that you personally have helped to facilitate?
I would say the show must be paused really kind of made its mark most heavily in the music industry, along with the Black Music Action Coalition. Those are the two that jump out at me as far as the biggest impact from an awareness standpoint. And then I know the work that we've been doing, a lot of our organizations have been doing specific to COVID relief. The Crew Nation Global Relief Fund that we established in partnership with Live Nation is a $15 million global relief fund for individuals out of work, live music, touring, and crews out of work because of the pandemic. That's probably one of the larger ones that we've worked on at our charity, but those previous two that I mentioned, for me, made the biggest splash in the industry overall.
Absolutely. And what I saw with the show Must Be Paused that was super powerful was people made it a point to say, hey, don't just, share this black square on Instagram. Share a helpful caption with it, share a resource. And money is tight through COVID, but if you have $5 or $10, donate it or spend some money at a small business. So I think that was something that really struck me with that movement.
Yeah, I'd say just Black Lives Matter as a whole, kind of it's existed for a minute, but just like the resurgence of it and just the information being pushed in everyone's faces was just much needed. It was really shocking to me, just what people just didn't know that I've known since I was like 10, because I had to, about like redlining and like food deserts. Like, people don't know about these things. So better late than never. I feel like it's the first time, at least in my generation, that, it feels like we're moving towards racial equity. So that's been great. And also it's just been extremely inclusive. I feel like we wasted no time in saying like, we're also talking about trans people. We're also talking about women. And so that was great. And then professionally, we worked on this campaign called Vote for Your Life. And that was just Viacom CBS's campaign around making sure our audience was not only registered to vote, but actually went out and voted. So my job specifically was finding talent to just boost that message. So I had everyone from like a Dove Cameron, who's like white, blonde hair, blue eyed, talking to her 40 million followers, making sure everyone was like aware of the voting process, all the way down to one of my favorite bands, like a local Brooklyn band called Phony People. It's like 5 straight Black guys, just like also talking to their audience. Like, that was just, I've been doing this for like 6 years, and that was just probably the most gratifying thing, especially post-election. Like, it paid off. So that's been awesome for me personally.
Yeah, and I saw a ton of partnerships with Headcount. So a bunch of companies really being active in that space as well, which is great to see. And even artists being active in that space, like Lady Gaga being on the campaign trail, was something that I think is important for fans to see. And it's funny to hear you refer to Phony People as a local Brooklyn band, because we have a ton of fans in the chat. I'm a huge fan as well, and I saw Michelle's reaction too.
So great.
Yeah, they're really great. I love it. Yeah, so thank you for sharing.
I'll go. I would agree with Tomi on the Black Lives Matter. It was really wonderful to finally see the Grammys, our parent organization, step up and really make a huge effort with that, and hire an amazing diversity and inclusion woman, and continue the conversations through many panels like this, and through our work just within our, taking a deep dive into our entire organization and the staff, and making sure that we are going in the right direction and working with, in the right way. So I would say that was that for personally, that was most important to me. But then what MusiCares did, the COVID relief, similar to Naz's efforts, is we launched a COVID relief where we were able to serve in the months of, the very tight months of COVID, from around March 15th, March 17th, until about August 1st, we served 19,000 people with $19 million. And it still continues, and we're coming up with additional relief efforts as we go. So, we know mental health is on the rise. We know addiction is on the rise. We know suicide is on the rise. So we're constantly coming up with workshops and panels and presentations just like this to continue educating our communities.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question for you, Erica, was, since you are in the mental health space, how you've seen with COVID the needs of people in the music business change, and how you've tried to fill those gaps. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because I think it's a huge priority with us right now, and we have seen those numbers continue to rise. We knew it would. It was just a matter of time, and continuing to see the West Coast locked down and not even be able to have these other jobs in hospitality, and having to move and leave some of their passion where it was, physically. We've seen it a lot, and so what we're trying to do is, like I said, hold these presentations and panels and constantly provide education and resources and work. We've created a database of therapists and psychiatrists and treatment centers that we can get people to really right away when they reach out and need that assistance. So there is no lag time. We also we have 5 online addiction recovery support groups, and we have 3 online emotional support groups. So we're no longer, that's the one good thing about COVID with us, is we're no longer held to our physical locations of where we hold these workshops and these educational panels. We are now nationwide, and anyone anywhere can jump on these weekly and get that extra support.
That's amazing, especially to see how immediate the support is. And that is just so crucial with, unfortunately, everything you just brought up on the rise, as you said, with COVID numbers still, unfortunately, on the rise. And I want to mention for all of our panelists and all of our audience members, who I'm sure would love to be linked to these great causes, I will gather all of these links and all of these resources for you and share them with our entire community. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I would love to hear from the other panelists on this question as well.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it. So I think for me personally, working with the Univision for our hashtag challenge, I think was a pretty big deal. So I had helped assisted in facilitating conversation with my current company about running our first bilingual hashtag challenge. And I just thought that was really important. So during the month of October, I helped co-hosted an event with our Univision point of contact to a few hundred employees. And it's been a fantastic resource for Spanish businesses, and expanding that into our platform. From a music perspective, we had numerous Latin songs featured on the Spotify charts as a result of that specific campaign. And understanding our platform is heavy in audio, that's a pretty big deal for Latin artists to say, hey, like, why can't we do that, right? So it's encouraging participation for a number of different artists that may not be involved on platforms. They can at least relate to one to say, we can have a voice, we can have a platform, and we can influence people for the better, to be a part of a community that maybe wasn't always there for us. So for me, I think that was a pretty big deal, to just like make it more inclusive for more musical artists that maybe weren't involved before.
Absolutely. And I think I want to touch on something you said, that I know that something I've seen TikTok do that's been really impressive is their community has come together to put captioning on their videos, which is so important to be inclusive to anyone who is disabled or can't hear that, to the hard of hearing. And I think that TikTok has done that by empowering their community to do that as well. So that's been really impressive. Great. So I think it may be time to transition into our Q&A. Let's see. Yeah, so first up we have an attendee, Lauren. Hey, Lauren, can you hear us? Looks like we may not be able to hear Lauren. I can ask Lauren's question for her because it's a really great question. So thank you for submitting that. Oh, your mic isn't working. That's totally okay. We'll ask your question for you. So Lauren asks, social impact work has undoubtedly increased within the music and entertainment industries this year. How do you all believe the music industry at large will continue to focus on social impact after this year and even after this pandemic? How can we hold organizations within the industry accountable to continue their social responsibility work?
I think everybody's watching now, right? And people have made the commitments, but there are groups like Black Music Action Coalition and the Show Must Be Paused that have these, they include collectives of individuals that are working at these labels and all of these different places. I think people are taking it seriously, and I think people are starting to care. Whether it feels a little weird because it's, why did it take this right to start to care? But I think we have to seize the opportunity and make sure that we continue to drive the initiatives that everyone has made their commitments around. I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, the work does not stop here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree in the fact that, everyone's watching. And so accountability is really big right now. I think the Show Must Be Paused actually sent out like a list of demands. Feels like a very harsh word, but I think that's what it was. Just like, so like a checklist of like, these are things we'd like to see happen over the next few months or the next year. So I think, yeah, I would hope that, this change actually happens, but it is about like listing out exactly what we need to see this change and then holding these corporations or people accountable.
I think before social media, before it even existence, we lived with all these injustices and we were like, oh, I'll try to make a difference where I am and I'll keep fighting. But now with social media, now it's the time. And now organizations know that it won't fly. They have to change. We have to have diversity. It has to be justice. People have to be paid well. And all of this, and like Nas said, it's unfortunate that everything happened, but we have to take this opportunity and show that it can't go back the way it was. People won't let it happen. So we just have to keep fighting for all this justice.
Absolutely. And I want to highlight that, Tomi, you mentioned that demands is a harsh word, but it almost seems necessary for the amount of change that needs to happen in the industry. It's harsh, but definitely something that, demands to be heard.
Yeah, agreed.
Great. So I think we'll go on to our second and final Q&A question. Hi, Michael, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you for asking your question.
Yeah, of course. And I just want to say thank you to all the panelists for taking the time out to talk with us about all this. It's really important to have these conversations, and it's really inspiring to hear from so many people who are so involved in these kinds of things. So thank you all. But anyways, my question is just, what kind of actions have you seen larger music companies take to be more equitable and socially aware, especially this year? And which of those actions do you think have had the largest impact? And also, just what would you like to see companies start doing in order to model these true diversity and equity traits?
Well, thank you, Michael, for that question. I think that question is great. I can speak on some things that UMG has done that I am particularly proud of. I feel like, at first I felt like it was pretty hard, when everything happened with George Floyd being a Black music industry professional. It was hard to work. It was hard to get through those days. It was hard to put a smile on and continue as business as usual when all of these things were going around that were making it very hard to act like business as usual. And I really wanted, those things that were being said in the moment of UMG as a company wanting to help, wanting to give back. I wanted that to be more than words. I wanted that to be put into action, and it has been. And I'm really happy about that. And I think since that time, they have enacted something called the Task Force for Meaningful Change, which has been amazing, on top of doing a lot of voting initiatives, voting drives, signing people up, paying people to be poll workers during that time period. We have 2 mentorship programs currently going on. One, like I said, with the Congressional Black Caucus, and another one that is directly through UMG itself, that focuses on hiring people of color in the music industry and giving them internship opportunities, as well as paying for their stay. So if you are from New York and you get an internship in LA, they'll pay for your travel. They'll pay to put you up in a apartment in LA and things like that, which has previously been a problem of a lot of students of color who feel like they can't take internships in places that they don't live because they don't know how they're going to finance their stay in that new place. So that's been great. On top of that, there's been a lot of matching programs in terms of giving back to different charities and organizations. I know that that was really big in the beginning of, you know, the social impact movement of this year, but I can happily say that we really haven't slowed down on that front. I know tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. We're partnering with a couple of organizations, one specifically called Homeboy Industries, which hires ex-cons and teach them how to make bread and run businesses, run bakeries across the nation, giving them, you know, job skills that are transferable through the rest of their lives. And we're partnering with them to do a employee matching program. Look, Sammy's one of our reps is in the chat, Sammy, she's shouted them out. Yes, Homeboy. So just a bunch of different things like that. I feel like I've been very proud of my company, particularly for doing, and I know a lot of people on the panel can probably say the same for theirs.
Absolutely. So many exciting initiatives going on with UMG there.
I'd say numbers talk, right? And some of the hiring, the diversity hiring goals that I've seen coming from different companies, that's real accountability because you can measure it. So I appreciate the quantifiable aspect of those goals. And for me, intentional hiring practices in the diversity space are what's going to start to really change the face of the industry. So I appreciate that and look forward to seeing those happen.
Absolutely. And I want to follow up with you, Michelle, and ask if there's any way that, I know a bunch of our attendees are curious how they can sort of get involved and donate if possible. Is there any way they can get involved with these initiatives that you mentioned or show their support?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, definitely. I want to say that the Task Force for Meaningful Change has a website. I'm currently verifying that. It does. And it also has an Instagram. There's a Youth Task Force for Meaningful Change, which some of the people on my team are a part of that. I'm going to drop that Instagram in the chat because they'll definitely be able to link anybody who's interested into any of the initiatives that are going on.
Thank you. That's great. And like I said, I will send out a comprehensive list of all of the initiatives and resources our panelists have shared with us tonight, because it's a bunch of exciting things going on that we all have the opportunity to get involved in. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle.
No problem.
Of course. Great. So that is the end of our Q&A section. So it seems like we have a few more minutes for a quick wrap-up question. So I'm curious, what misconceptions do each of you think people have on the work you do? I know that social impact in the music business can often be referred to as sort of like a niche part of the business. So I'm curious if there are any misconceptions about your roles and, you know, anything you're willing to share on that.
I can go first. So I would say my job specifically isn't necessarily social impact. It's more music strategy, talent booking at a larger company. But so I would say that talent booking can be looked at as like fluff and just like glitz and fun, which it is a good time, but it's also one of those roles. It's like, it is what you make it. So I came into the role knowing that I wanted to have a social impact and like book more artists that look like me and that weren't necessarily getting the same shine on other platforms. So yeah, I would say talent booking is just, people would think not much goes into it, but it really can be a very strategic role in anything you make of it. So yeah.
So that sort of reflects on you do a ton of work in social impact, but your role isn't necessarily outwardly a social impact role.
Right. So I could just, book artists that I know my audience wants to see. Everybody looks the same, makes the same type of music, but it's just broader thinking. Yeah, just more diverse people. It's kind of like using my job as a platform for discovery, whether it's the type of person I'm introducing you to or information I'm giving you. So
right. I think it's important to note there that, you can do you can have social impact in mind and make a difference even in a role that is not necessarily a social impact or a D&I role.
Yeah, I would say the same for me as well. I actually don't do that in my day-to-day role as a brand development manager at TikTok. That's actually why I did my initial LinkedIn DM initially, because I wanted to know what is brand partnerships, because again, every company and every brand, every music company is going to have a different definition of what brand partnerships could be. I'm working with a variety of different businesses to talk to them about the value of TikTok and talk to them about how they can grow their business through our platform. With all that said, you can still get involved like at your company. And again, if it's not there, you can go ahead and create it, like put on that entrepreneurial hat and like, put your gas, your foot on the pedal to go ahead and create it. For me, getting involved in employee resource groups was, I think, really impactful in terms of like my career growth, like being involved in these social impact programs. And that's something that I'm not doing it for the resume. Again, I'm doing it to give back to the community, to really lay a foundation, because also understand that, a lot of these companies, they're going to have the resources in-house to probably help out. But if they don't, that again goes back to your strategy of like, how can we present a plan to where it's strategic, it helps the business, but it also gives back, because ultimately, there will be money out there that can be spread out and given to more communities that may not have the funds to be able to help their own members of different nonprofits and different organizations that are trying to push any D&I initiative. So that's something, a different perspective to have on it. You can still be involved even if it's not part of your day-to-day in your role.
I'm very fortunate and grateful to be able to work in such a great foundation that helps students achieve their dreams, that helps donate musical instruments to public school programs around the world. And what people need to understand, like Tomi and Matt said, that you can do social impact even in other job opportunities. You can, if you want to support, let's see, public schools music programs, then you can just visit a concert, just record them, just upload it in your social media, on your LinkedIn, and say, look at this band, it's amazing. They need a clarinet, and somebody might DM you and say, hey, I have a clarinet from when I was in high school. You can do all that even working other types of jobs. So you can even do social impact with your employees, how you talk to your employees, how you treat them. It will make a difference. Then that's the way they will treat their employees and their colleagues. Everyone can do social impact. Like Gandhi said, we be the change you wish to see in the world. If you act with justice, if you do equal pay, if you help the less fortunate, then other people will do it too. And everything starts with you. So we can all do social impacts in every area, so don't be afraid to do it, and to do what you believe in, to support the causes that are true to you and the community.
Absolutely.
I think one thing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to just say one thing that might be important for the audience to note, that if you do work on the nonprofit side and you are mission driven in your day-to-day job, it often comes with different types of trade-offs. You are getting to do that kind of work every day, typically not making the same level of pay as you are when you're working on the for-profit side and you're on a profit-driven role. So there's always going to be give and take, right? And so I think that's something that's important to consider when you're looking at different careers in the industry on priorities and pathways that you're pursuing.
Absolutely. And I was actually going to follow up with you, Naz. I know you'd mentioned the partnership with Diversify the Stage and the exciting masterclass and other opportunities coming up. So I wanted to know if you wanted to share with our audience how they can get involved with the exciting things you guys have coming up.
Yeah, Diversify the Stage is two-part. There's one part where the initiative has started a hiring portal at neverfamous.com, where you can go and register to be in the mix of hiring for touring related jobs, specifically focused on POC and LGBTQ plus community. And then we have the masterclass series, which is a closed opportunity in this pilot cohort that we did this fall. And we'll be opening up more broadly for applications next year with the cohorts. This cohort that's finishing up in December will move on to mentorship and paid internship opportunities in the music industry. So it's a nice direct through line for this first group, all young women of color. So it's an exciting initiative, and we just got it started in October. So we're excited to wrap up this first pilot and then be able to expand next year.
Absolutely, that's so exciting. So thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Want to follow up with you as well, Erica, because I know you'd mentioned a bunch of exciting things in the mental health space as well. If there was any way our volunteers could get involved with any of those or show their support.
You know, with some of the groups, it's tough. It's free. Anyone can go to any of these groups, but it's volunteer opportunities are just a little bit tough, although we are trying to broaden that right now. And there's always opportunities with our events. And you know, but because the work that we do is so confidential and to the individual that we're helping, that's where we've kind of had struggles in the past of our volunteer program. However, we have a lot of internship programs that we offer. And in fact, all but one of my interns have all gone on to work either in MusiCares at the Recording Academy or with other great music industry organizations that have a great social impact program. So it's very cool to watch that. But I just want to say one quick thing. One of the things that people tend to not know about MusiCares is that we will help. We're all inclusive, so we will help anyone in any genre and any field of the music profession. So this can be, it's not just musicians, it can be videographers, it can be music editors, or it can be music executives or producers or engineers, you name it. So as long as they can prove that they've worked for at least 3 to 5 years in the industry, then they will qualify for our programs.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. And like I said, for all of our audience, I will be sharing all these really exciting opportunities with you all directly into our general community via our socials. So that is it for tonight. Thank you, everyone, especially to each of our panelists for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure meeting you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your passions with me and for our entire community. For anyone who's just attending a Color of Music Collective panel for the first time, you can actually volunteer with us if you're interested with that as well, or if you just want more info, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Color of Music Collective, also on our website, colorofmusiccollective.com. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night.